Welcome to What the Fantasy, episode 27. I am Brandon Hay at Hay B3. Zareh is still going through his class, working through learning so much more about film. But I have a special guest, Calvin at Calvin underscore SGF. So thanks for joining me, Calvin.
Let's go. Thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this show. And we got a lot of news and interesting stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, definitely. So, what I usually do is let you plug, whatever you're working on first. So, tell everyone, kind of where to find you and everything.
Sounds good. So yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Calvin underscore SGF, like you said. I also host the Second and Goal Fantasy podcast. That's where I do all my fantasy shows once a week during the off season. Usually we come out with something over there. And then I also do game broadcasts and other shows for other sports on an app called Colorcast. If you go to my link in my bio, it'll have a link to go there. You can follow me there and you can find a lot of what I do over there as well.
Okay, that sounds cool. So a couple questions I always ask all the guests on the show is how long have you been playing fantasy, and who is your favorite NFL team?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. I think this will be year 7 or 8 of me playing fantasy. I played for a while. For a while, I used to do it in touchdown only kind of leagues where it wasn't the full thing. But over the last few years, I've done actual leagues and stuff, and done dynasty, done redraft. Played in the Scott Fish Bowl last year. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm really glad I started. But yeah, I've been playing for a little while. And my favorite NFL team is the Commanders, who are not doing too great as of now, but hopefully will be on the upswing soon.
Okay, yeah. So that's first of all, let me get this was my first year in the Scott Fish Bowl. So how was your experience with that?
It was good. As for my team, I went 7-6, but very narrowly missed the playoffs. So, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and my team definitely had its moments. Depth was just an issue later in the season, though. Didn't quite get as far, of course, as I would have liked, but it was a ton of fun, and I'm really thankful to have been invited and been able to participate.
Yeah, same for me. I sneaked into the playoffs. I think based on not by record, by one of the other categories, but my team was kind of my running backs just kind of went. I went heavy quarterback early, because of the scoring, but that didn't really turn out for me because I ended up getting Mahomes, and he was kind of up and down all season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was interesting. I went really rookie heavy, and that worked for me when I got the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack at a great value. But unfortunately, when we had that big Chase game in week 15, I was already out of it. So that would have been nice for sure. But I think from week to week, I definitely had a lot of upside. I think there were 2 or 3 weeks where I was one of the top 2 scoring teams in my division, but other times it would be bust. I remember one week back in week 2 that was kind of over Twitter for a little bit where I was in the negatives for a lot of the time in that afternoon because I had Zach Wilson and Joe Burrow just throwing picks everywhere. And Joe Burrow had thrown back-to-back picks. I don't know if you remember that, but that was back in week 2. And so my team just could not get out of the negatives because nobody was scoring. So that was fun. But since then it was on the upswing for sure, but ended up barely missing the playoffs at 7-6.
Yeah, definitely. The scoring got me one week because I think I had Derek Carr as one of my quarterbacks, and I thought I'd won the game, but I forgot that if you throw in completions, then you get negative points. So I ended up losing by 0.1 because he threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game. So, yeah, but it's definitely a fun experience, and it's a cool thing that I'm glad I was a part of. So hopefully we'll both get in it again. So, yeah, I want to talk to you about the Commanders. First of all, do you like their name as the Commanders? And second, what was your reaction when they traded for Carson Wentz?
For the first question, I don't hate the name. I just don't like how it's not really shortenable to the point where you can there's no good 2 or 1 syllable nickname for them. So, I mean, I'm sure it's a headline writer's nightmare. It's also just kind of a mouthful to say and gets tiring after a while. But I when it first came out, I was more against it than now, as I think most people probably will be. Just in general, it'll be something that we get used to. I'm sure other names the Texans probably sounded so stupid when it came out back in 2002. But then since then, you're kind of just used to it. We'll get used to it. It won't be the worst thing in the world. Second, My first reaction when we traded for Carson Wentz was just like immense despair because I wanted like a guy like Russell Wilson, or I mean, if his legal issues got like gone through, which they are, but maybe not with all the terrible like stuff with Deshaun Watson, maybe him as well, depending on what was going on there. But I didn't like it, and then I realized we can. I feel like he's more of a bridge quarterback. Like we're paying him a lot for this year, but after that, like $27 million, he doesn't have a cap hit. He can get cut, and we will be perfectly fine. So I don't like how I feel like we'll probably be around mediocre for next year as well, but it's fine as a bridge quarterback to get to that 2023 class. I feel like that's where we need to draft a quarterback because there's a couple of guys who are probably better than any quarterback in this class.
No, I agree. I actually have an article that should be coming out later this week, kind of talking about the effect of Carson Wentz on Terry McLaurin. I think it's a somewhat positive. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, for fantasy purposes at least, because Michael Pittman had a pretty good year last year, and honestly, this is still going to be Terry McLaurin's best quarterback he's played with in the NFL because of the quarterbacks they kind of went through in Washington. So. They're kind of in a weird spot. It seems like they want to compete, but they like don't have the quarterback, so they're kind of like stuck. Especially with Brady and coming back in the NFC and everything.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can see your take on McLaurin, especially since like Carson Wentz, we know he has the talent and we know he has the arm to make big throws. It's just consistency and he's really atrocious against the blitz, and that's not going to be good since we lost Brandon Sheriff. Hopefully, we'll have an offensive line, but he will be able to make throws for Terry McLaurin and get more big plays for him than beforehand. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's for fantasy purposes. It's just kind of like get him the ball in better situations, but as a football perspective, he still makes those Wentz still makes those one or two horrible decisions every game that, like I don't remember what game it was last year, but he threw it like kind of blindly out of his own end zone and he got intercepted for a touchdown, for like the game-winning touchdown. He still does those type of things. So for a football perspective, unless they get that out of him, like you said, it's probably a bridge quarterback situation.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so next, Melvin Gordon has always been like a thorn in my side because I always have like the other running back usually on the team, and I'm gonna be totally honest, I just don't think he's like that great. I mean, I know he had a pretty good year last year with the touchdowns and everything, but I'm just never excited with him. I thought he was going to stay in Denver and be a thorn in Javonte Williams' side, and now he's going to be a thorn in J.K. Dobbins' side in the Ravens. So, what do you think about that whole backfield now with Dobbins and Gus Edwards coming back from injury, and now them bringing in Melvin Gordon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I assume I didn't see is that official yet, or is that just the likely? I've definitely seen they've been in discussions. So is that the most likely destination at this point, or is that?
I thought I saw that he did sign with them.
Well, I mean, either way, though, it does seem like at least there's strong interest there. Like in which case, it does muddle that backfield of the Ravens a lot. Like Dobbins coming back, like you said, Gus Edwards is coming back. Everybody's coming back. And of course, the same with Lamar Jackson, who was out for a bit with that ankle injury. It's just, I really hate it. It's really bad for fantasy because I'm like having Gus Edwards as kind of a guy where he can get like 10 or 12 carries sometimes and be undervalued. But Dobbins' ceiling is now so capped with Gordon coming in because I don't think Gordon's a bad running back. I think he's a solid running back. He's not that explosive. Dobbins is more explosive, but at this point, Gordon is still a guy who can take significant carries. Gordon's upside is capped in that way. Dobbins is capped, and Edwards is kind of a non-factor who you shouldn't really be targeting if that occurs. It's good for the Ravens for sure to have a nice running game to complement their receivers, but and I think this also is kind of just a lose-lose situation overall for the offense in fantasy, while maybe it's good in real life, because those wide receivers probably not going to be getting the ball as much. The Ravens already probably going to be one of the heaviest run offenses in the league, would probably even up their total carry amount even more with Gordon coming in. So it'll be hard for like a single option to kind of be supported in that offense. Even Lamar Jackson's rushing upside could get hurt a little bit. So that will not make
Hey, Calvin, did I lose you there?
Oh, wait, am I still here?
Yeah, you're here
Oh,
now.
okay. What
You
at
kind
what
of
point
went
did
out.
it? Okay.
You kind of went out a little bit. I think I got your basic point. I think
Mhm.
the last thing I heard you say about was about Lamar Jackson. Still, it might sap some of his running. If they add another running back, which I agree with. And I just looked it up, and I thought for sure it was a deal, but I guess it's still potential. So we'll act like it's going to happen. But I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think Melvin Gordon could be what they use as a goal line back, and maybe because they're just even though Tyler Huntley played well last year, they're just a different team with when Lamar Jackson gets hurt. So I think they might try to have him run less around the goal line. Melvin Gordon could be a vulture there, and I agree with you with the Dobbins. It probably makes him borderline mid to borderline running back two now, and I think you're right with Gus Edwards not being fantasy relevant, but I think they're still going to give him carries because they really like him. So he's
Yeah.
not going to be fantasy relevant, but he's going to take fantasy like points from the other guys. And I really was high on Rashad Bateman, but now with them maybe even running more, I think the only passing option you can really rely on is Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just doesn't help the offense in general, though, when you don't, because this is going to be an even more run reliant team in all likelihood if Melvin Gordon signs than it was before. So even a guy like Andrews, like he's going to have a role for sure. I just don't see him being tight end one again if this happens, or maybe even if it doesn't. Like, I don't know if maybe this one signing makes that much of a difference for him, but in general, just all those guys coming back at running back will kind of change how the offense operates a lot for sure. And then other pass catchers should be probably inconsistent. Even a guy like Rashad Bateman, who I have a lot of confidence in talent wise, still the inconsistency is going to be there because the target share won't be high from week to week.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing that I could think of is we saw how they had so many running back injuries last year. So they are just trying to stockpile running backs, but then I doubt that they would cut Gus Edwards, if they're bringing him back. So it's just gonna be a crowded backfield that probably they're going to be, run heavy again. Even though last year they said they were going to pass the ball more, but it didn't necessarily have a lot of success with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So next, this is kind of the question I kind of always had myself about wide receivers. Um, just would you rather have one that is, like the only option on the team, so they have to force feed him the ball, but obviously good defenses can probably take him away, if you double him or something, or have a team that has multiple good wide receivers. So you can't do that, but the the targets are spread out a little bit. My examples I put on the sheet was kind of like the Colts with Michael Pittman. He was really their main receiver in when they didn't run the ball, and then multiple options, kind of like the Rams. They had Cup and Woods, and then they had Cup and OBJ. Kind of those two situations. So, which situation do you like more?
I think those two options are definitely like ones that are like good success examples. And it's hard to think of one that I like more. I know it's kind of a generic answer, but it all depends on the receiver. Like if you have a guy who's an alpha, like maybe a Devonte Adams, of course you would love him being the only option. If you have a guy who's not an alpha, like Juju Smith-Schuster, who I've always been low on, he's not going to be a good wide receiver one for an offense. It does depend, and I think it depends. I think definitely in lower like powered offenses, even if like a wide receiver two is getting like solid targets, they usually won't have as much upside for big plays and touchdowns. Definitely in a like higher powered offense, when you have like the Rams, for example, when they're scoring a lot, Cooper Kupp and like OBJ, for example, like OBJ can be the wide receiver two. He can get the same amount of targets as maybe a wide receiver two elsewhere, but he's always going to have more upside for big plays. So that would be like kind of the thing where I really like multiple options in like a top tier elite offense for sure. But then again, like in the top tier elite offense, like the Packers and Devontae Adams, that has like wide receiver one potential. So I just don't think the multiple options obviously that will never have as much potential as a guy who's the only option. But the only option guy will have a much lower floor and potentially in a bad offense, or if he's not good enough, just will not pan out at all.
Yeah, definitely. I think one wide receiver. There's very few teams that are able to truly take away that, like Belichick with the Patriots, they always try to take away your first option. So that would be something. I think when the Falcons and the Patriots played last year, they didn't let Kyle Pitts really get any good looking targets. But Devontae Adams is a good example, like you said, because I mean the Packers really have never paired a consistent wide receiver with him. So if you're talented enough, you're going to end with a quarterback that good. So, but I think it's a good kind of like discussion point of what kind of offenses you really want, because you want that someone that obviously is going to get a lot of targets. Another one would be kind of like AJ Brown. It's a run heavy offense, but he gets the majority of the targets, but he's fairly efficient with it. So you just need players that, if that's going to be less targets on a run heavy offense, just being able to be efficient with those targets. But there is a ceiling that they're not going to get in those kind of offenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and that's since rookie the draft is coming up, kind of talk about rookie draft strategy. So you said you've been playing Dynasty. How long have you been playing Dynasty?
I actually only got into it relatively recently. I did like a startup a year ago. That was the first one I did. But I've been kind of, I guess, following the Dynasty Twitter sphere, and would say like I feel kind of relatively experienced and knowledgeable in that for sure. Although redraft is kind of the main focus of my podcast.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Since early on, probably get a fresh perspective. Just what approach do you think you would take on trying to kind of like hoard the rookie picks, get the younger talent, or trying to take advantage of some people getting a little rookie crazy and trading some of those rookie picks for the veterans that might not be as like flashy, but are like really good fantasy players?
Yeah, I think that approach definitely depends, like, from what I do to what I actually should do. And what I like to do, like, just me being me, like, is hoard rookie picks. And I think that's the same with a lot of people. But I feel like that general consensus, like, that's a lot how a lot of people like to play Dynasty. I wouldn't say that maybe that's like the mass consensus view that hoarding rookie picks is the way. But what I've found and what I've kind of feel like is that people will post these rosters and they're like, oh, look at these first round picks that I have. Look at how good my team's going to be when we have the rookie draft. Or look at all these young guys I drafted. I don't have a single player over 25 or something like that. That seems to be like the more fun way to play for a lot of people. So in some ways you can capitalize by trading picks for proven veterans. Like, sometimes you're not going to get as much upside, so it all depends on what you're looking for. But if you're looking for a solid wide receiver too, to like fill out a team that's looking good for a championship year, and you can get like a guy like DJ Moore or T Higgins at a discount, which T Higgins may be hard to do, DJ Moore a little less difficult. If you can get him at a discount and trade a pick that you're comfortable trading that has more risk, that can be a really good investment, and sometimes you can get a value on that for sure. So I think the second one is probably the better strategy, but the first one's what I like to do more.
Right. Yeah. So the first one a couple years ago, I did a startup, and my whole thing was I was going to try out a strategy of get like as many rookie picks as I could for that following year and then the year after, so 2020 and 2021. So I knew my team was going to be horrible, so I did that. And let me just say, my team ended up horrible. Like just because you think like what rookies are going to be good. I ended up picking Jalen Rieger ahead of Justin Jefferson that year, and some other things like that. So I've kind of tried to adapt, kind of do a little bit of both. Actually, this year I've been trading rookie picks more. So I just recently did this trade. I traded pick 11 and 12 of the first round for Josh Jacobs. So let me get your opinion on that.
Is that a super flex or non-super flex?
It is super flex.
Ooh, in which case, that's interesting. That's a really close one for me because you're looking at that late first round, and I feel like in non-super flex that can be a bit of a dead zone. So I would definitely go Jacobs for sure. And I feel like again, like you're saying, this year's draft, this year in super flex, there's not that single quarterback in rookie drafts that you can kind of rely on to even be an NFL starter. So I guess I do like your side there. I feel like maybe in a weaker quarterback rookie class, the 111 or 112 is still going to be a lot of times just a shot on a later like wide receiver or running back with upside, but who has a lot of risk, or just like the fifth quarterback off the board or the fourth quarterback off the board, maybe in like a bad draft class. So I think I would take Jacobs.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about the quarterbacks, I have no idea how like rookie, dynasty drafts are going to go this year, because usually there's definitely going to be four quarterbacks, usually like in the top like 5-6 picks, in super flex, because it's so important. But with the lack of trust in these quarterbacks, I don't know. Some of these quarterbacks might go in the second when normally that wouldn't happen. So yeah, and I was very running back needy on that and there's not that many great running backs in this draft either. So I wanted to capitalize on that part too. And just to wrap up, rookie drafts, it's kind of like the NFL draft also, drafting based on need of the team or best player available. Some people will reach for a quarterback or a running back in the rookie draft just because they need it on their team. What I try to do is just stockpile as many best available or top players, I think. And then I always think, I can trade those players later. So what's your kind of opinion on that strategy?
I think the smarter strategy is probably to just draft on best player available, like you said, and then trade the guys later at a positional deficiency. Usually, like there's 11 other teams in the league, for example, you can probably get a fair enough offer to where you can trade away at the deficit. I feel like a lot of managers may not think about the fact that you're like trying to get rid of an extra receiver. Some definitely do. But if you kind of approach it in the way where you send it to a team that needs wide receiver, you can kind of balance out that like disadvantage that you're going into with trading. Say if you drafted a wide receiver at like best player available, but you didn't actually need one, that's how you could go about it. Or just, and honestly, like don't be afraid to just sit with that for a couple months. Like there's no need to just go right after the rookie draft to make your roster look good right away. There's plenty of time before the season starts to get them traded away.
No, definitely. I think a good example is last year in a couple of my drafts, people were reaching on running back. So they drafted like Trey Sermon at the end of the first round, reaching on him. And I wait. Yeah. So, and then I had a lot where I was like the first or second pick of the second round, and I would either get Rashad Bateman or Elijah Moore or something like that, which I feel a lot better. Obviously now that Trey Sermon like couldn't get on the field last year, and even Bateman having those injuries, both and more. I feel much better about that. So that's kind of my thoughts too. I would rather not reach on a running back because you never know. Trey Sermon was the thing last year before the draft, and we don't even know what's going on with him in San Francisco anymore.
Yeah. No, I never liked the landing spot for Trey Sermon coming out of the draft and thought it was kind of ridiculous. He was going in the first round for sure. And meanwhile, a guy like Elijah Moore, like you said, he was fantastic, loved his tape, and he turned out really, really well as well. So it kind of like even with the fact that Zach Wilson was a bit inconsistent, like if he takes a jump in year two, the sky's the limit right there. So Elijah Moore definitely looks like the much better pick at this point. So that's a great example.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and now we'll get into our fun topic we do. We're talking about board games. So we each have our top 3 board games, and we can talk about that. But you put on some others that I want to talk about after that, because some of those I've never heard of. So I want to talk about that. So you can start off. We'll go back and forth. We do have one similar game. So you can start from 1 or 3, whichever one you want to do.
Sounds good. Yeah, what I did, I like put down some, and I was like, wait a minute, I don't know if I like. I originally was like, I'm trying to think what I should do for my third one. Then I was like, oh, I thought of like 6, and I realized, yeah, some of these in the I try to put like games that people know, I guess, in the honorable for the most part. But like, I guess I'll try to explain some of those. I don't know how good I'll be at explaining them, but they are very fun. So I thought they deserved a mention. So I guess I'll start number 3. Number 3 is Diplomacy, and that's one I haven't played like in a little while, but would play again and would like relearn. And for those who don't know the game, it's basically like a game with absolutely no luck. You're trying to collaborate and in some cases like backstab your like other opponents, and each of you kind of control a region from around World War I. And there's like 6 regions, and you have different like I think you have like ships, and then you have, I forget what the land units are called, but you have those as well. And it's similar to Risk in the way that you can like move them around, but it's all about like kind of you can make deals with people, like in just like decide, okay, we're going to have a truce where we're going to team up or whatever. But at some point you like go and backstab, and that happens a lot of the time. Or you don't have to, but you definitely can, and that will tend to happen because of course there's only one winner. So essentially it's like a war game where like it's all about strategy and psychology, and it gets really intense. So it's very fun.
Oh yeah, I've never played that, but it does sound fun. I might have to try that out. So so for I had a definite top two, and my third one I still have not filled out. So this is just on the fly right now. But I would say I really like. I guess I'll go with Clue. I like it because me and my wife like a lot of like the crime shows, so it's kind of like you're kind of doing that, and and when I was a kid, because I don't know how much you play Clue, but there's like on the corners you can go like directly room to room, like across the corners. You don't have to roll the dice and come out of the room. And I don't know why, but as a kid, like I thought that was so cool. It was kind of like you could like transport, back and forth. So, I'm just like I've always really liked Clue. So that's number 3 for me.
All right, I like it. I actually haven't really played that much, but I kind of feel like I know the general idea, and I've played similar games like 221 Beat Baker Street. I think is kind of similar. I've played that before. So let's see. Number 2 on my list. This one's one that everyone would know. I put chess, and chess is probably like the least, or I mean, I don't know, maybe not the least. Actually, yeah, probably the least complicated game on here out of all the ones I put, other than maybe like one. But it's literally just like 64 squares. You have all your pieces, and you just have to strategize. And I'm not that good at it, which is unfortunate. I would like to be better, but it's very fun. And I think it's sometimes like it sounds a little boring to like start a game. Once you get into it, it's so much fun trying to like outsmart, set traps, win the game, checkmate. And at times, sometimes you can, when you're losing, you can like trap someone into a stalemate and then just walk away saying it's a tie. So that's pretty fun as well. I've done that many times. But yeah, that's my number 2. Simple, but like one of the most popular games ever.
Yeah, I definitely know how to play chess. I haven't played it in a while, but you're right. It is like fun to like strategize and figure out where to go and everything. So, and it's such an easy game to really play. You just need the board and all the pieces. And I know a lot of people play it on their phones, so you can play it really anywhere. The second one is one that we both have, and that is Risk for me. My dad, and me and my dad, my brother would always play that. And my number 1 and my number 2 games, I feel like, are games where it always ends up like in someone getting upset or like throwing the board or something. I just love Risk, where it's like strategy, and I know that there's a little bit of luck with rolling the dice, but I think it's fun with strategy, and it's a very competitive game. So that's why I really like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I put Risk as my number 1, and I think like the board, like the whole aspect of like it being on the board is so much fun. But like, I'm not usually the one to like play a game on an app, but if you download the Risk app, you can get through like actual amounts of games. It is so much fun. Like that really made it for me like maybe the most fun game, just because like it's quicker. You can do like online, or you can just play on your own, or play or like against the computer, or just play like other people and like pass and play or whatever. Like that it made the games faster. There's all these custom maps you can do, and even if you don't pay for anything, you can do like free custom maps of the week. So it always made it new and exciting and stuff. And I got like pretty good at it too. I haven't played in like a while, but that really changed it to where it wasn't like something you had to do a whole weekend, set aside a whole weekend for. Like you could do a game in like 30 minutes.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't played Risk on like an app or anything, so I have to check that out. And my number 1 is Monopoly, and I've actually played it on my Xbox. My
Mm.
my wife doesn't like Monopoly, but she'll play it if we play it on a video game. But it's another thing. I like it, and there's so many different forms you can get it. I remember when I was in middle school, we found one, and it was like an NFL version. It was called NFL Monopoly, and it had like it was like divisions and everything. So it's kind of like one of my favorite games, and throw in like football teams and everything, and it was fun. It's another competitive game where like people, will like, get upset about it, but I just really like it. It's, similar to Risk and like the competitiveness and strategy of what you're buying and whatnot. But that's always been one of my favorite board games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it a lot as well. That's one where it's it's very enjoyable, and it's can be a lot of luck at times. Like if you get that color set, you're just kind of golden. But like trading too is always fun. I became the type that would like never be trusted to like I would at one point like back when I played consistently for a little while, and then I would be like I would always trade for railroads, and there would be no price that would give someone eventually to give up railroads because I would get all four and then just get $200 like every turn. And so it would just be like, it was so funny. Like eventually I just could not pay the price because it was like, I couldn't do anything to get those. So I definitely messed up the valuations of that for sure for a while, but it's so much fun for sure. Yeah. I like that pick.
Yeah. So obviously on your others, you have Monopoly, Boggle. I know what Boggle is. So what is first Chameleon?
Oh yeah, that one is one of the most like I haven't really played that much, so I'll see if I can describe it. It's essentially you all have to like there's like cards that you have to put down, and there's different categories at the beginning of games where like each team has to like get or actually wait, am I thinking of a different game right now? Actually no, I am thinking that's a different game. Sorry, I was thinking of a different game, but essentially you have to there's like a topic that everybody there's you like turn over the card. Each person gets a card and you turn it over, and then it points you to like a specific spot on like a board that shows a topic, and everyone can see the topic except the one person who pulls a card that says Chameleon, in which case they have to try to blend in and not get guessed, and like say that like it's a random topic, so it's like football or something. Everyone has to say something that's like related to football, and then the Chameleon has to try to blend in and figure out what the topic is as you're going around the table, because they don't want to get guessed, because if they don't, you get points, or they get points. But like other people want to try to do something that might be creative to where like you're linking it to football, but like you're not getting like guessed at the same time, but you're also trying to make it harder for the Chameleon to figure out what the category actually is. So I don't know if I explained that very well. It's like hard to kind of describe, but it's one of like the most fun games I've ever played for sure.
Yeah, it definitely seems like you really like the board games with like all the strategy and different things like that. So that definitely goes along with all that. So we did that, and we're just going to finish the show. I know you said you didn't have positional rankings, but I just finished an update on my rankings, so I'm going to put them up on the screen, and we can just talk about them to end the show. So let me pull those up, and let's here. Let's see. There we go. All right, this is all based on Dynasty. So actually, let me take this off so we can see. Okay, so I did all by positions. I have rookies in here. So what do you think about me putting Josh Allen as my quarterback one?
I think it's interesting. I don't mind it at all, because I definitely think Allen has the more rushing upside over a guy like Patrick Mahomes. It's really close right there. But at this point, I feel like Josh Allen's established that he's going to have a heck of a lot of longevity in the league. And so, honestly, that's a very solid pick, especially coming off of, like, not bad years, but more down years for Patrick Mahomes in terms of fantasy value. Like, Josh Allen might be the guy I'm looking at number one overall in dynasty leagues, and then, like, number one in Superflex, like the first pick off the board.
Yeah, definitely. So Mahomes is still two for me. Then I got Herbert, Kyler, and Lamar. Those are Kyler and Lamar's. Their rushing ability always keeps them up high for me. Let's see. I actually dropped Dak down. I had him, I think, top 5. I dropped him down after they traded Amari Cooper, just because I worry about the weapons they really have. Because Michael Gallup, he's got some injuries, and then we think CeeDee Lamb is this great receiver, but could he have kind of the juju effect he was a secondary guy. He was very good, but as the number one guy, how is he going to do? So I dropped Dak there, and then all the rookies are kind of lower because I'm still waiting to see them. I'm a big Justin Fields fan, so I have him as the top rookie. And with the Devontae Adams trade, I had Derek Carr in my top 12. Are there any of these in the quarter for quarterbacks at least that surprise you or that you disagree with and want to talk about?
I feel like these are pretty like accurate for the most part. I just think Trey Lance at 18 seems low to me for Dynasty. I feel like that's a guy who for Dynasty by next offseason could end up being a borderline top 5 quarterback. I'm not saying he would be for sure, but with that rushing upside, he has the ability to potentially go for an 800-yard, 1,000-yard season on the ground. I know he's very risky, but like in Dynasty, I wouldn't rather have like a guy like Ryan Tannehill, who's kind of he's got weapons but hasn't really like done a ton for above expectations as of yet. He doesn't seem like he could be an elite dynasty quarterback. Same with maybe, I don't even know, like Trey Lance is an interesting guy who I think I might have ahead of Trevor Lawrence as well. Like Matt Corral's another one. I think it's too early to trust him. I just think I would move Lance probably higher.
Yeah, that's understandable. And even going into the draft last year, I wasn't super high on Trey Lance. Kind of like the Malik Willis thing, great, good runners that I just question, like their accuracy and everything. But you are right. They've obviously put a lot of capital into Trey Lance. It's going to be interesting what the 49ers do, quarterback, what direction they're going to go. But yeah, you're probably right about that. Matt Corral is my quarterback one of this upcoming rookie class, so that was kind of the sweet spot there. But you're probably right with Trey Lance. He definitely should be ahead of Ryan Tannehill and probably ahead of Matt Corral because we did see him play a pretty good game last year late in the season. So I do agree with that. So now we'll move on to running backs. I think the consensus is John Taylor at 1. Then I'm pretty high on DeAndre Swift in top 5. I moved Christian McCaffrey down to 7. I've done some mocks where Christian McCaffrey has gone in the 3rd round now, which I think is way too far. I know the injury history and everything, and I really like Antonio Gibson with Washington, but I would probably have him higher if they gave him a bigger workload or more carries, but they seem to all really like J.D. McKissick and like letting him even get some goal line carries. And I'm not very high on Cam Akers, and I moved J.K. Dobbins down based on, kind of what's going on with the running back situation in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think I like these again as well. I agree on Akers. I don't love him coming off of that Achilles, of course. I know his production in the playoffs was subpar, mainly maybe due to that injury. He came back on such a short timeline. But the question for me is, like, I said this on my podcast as well, like, Cam Akers has never been, like, the efficiency king. So if he drops even a little bit from, like, a 4.0, 3.9 yards per carry guy to a 3.7, 3.6 yards per carry guy, is he going to get that same workload? And I feel like eventually the answer is just not going to be the same, to where like it's just not efficient for that offense to keep handing it off to him when they have so many other weapons. So I am a little low on him as well. I do like, and I think it's interesting how you have Zeke all the way up at 15. I think like I saw some ADP where he was like RB 24. I feel like that's way too low. So where I definitely think he should be higher than that. 15 is, I would say, relatively high, but I don't know if I mind it because I think he's still got juice left in the tank, playing through an injury this year. It'll be interesting next year, especially with Cooper gone. Maybe they'll run the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Zeke is definitely a hard one, but I mean, they with a good offense. Well, I kind of worry, like I said, with the Amari Cooper trading, but as long as that offense moves the ball, he's going to get those touchdown opportunities. And to be totally honest, if you look like behind him, maybe Derrick Henry, but obviously injuries with that. You don't know about Dobbins, David Montgomery, that Chicago offense, Aaron Jones, and CEH. Maybe eventually Kenneth Walker and or Travis Etienne, but a lot of those running backs are kind of iffy also. So that's why I kind of slotted him there.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense, yeah.
So yeah, and I'm pretty low on Fournette too. I think he's down here in the late 20s. What's your opinion on Leonard Fournette? Do you think he's just more of a redraft value than a dynasty value?
Probably. I mean, I feel like he's going to go pretty high in redraft though. But I mean, in Dynasty, the fact is, like, when his age is still like I think he's 26. Like, that's not that old. He doesn't have like a ton like of workload on him. He kind of had a resurgence after everyone kind of wrote him off. So I don't know. Maybe he could be nearing that cliff. I'd probably take him over a guy like Singletary or a guy like Kareem Hunt at this point. But I mean, I understand having him lower because he doesn't feel like a long-term guy because he's already kind of had that drop off in a way to where he wasn't like, and then he kind of had a resurgence. As long as Tom Brady's around, he's going to be great. But maybe Brady retires and then Fournette just kind of takes a complimentary role. But nobody knows like what's going to happen with Tom Brady. Maybe he's going to play for 5 more years and we'll be wrong. Like it's so hard to tell with that situation, which is the problem when evaluating Fournette because I feel like that changes him so much.
Yeah, I think that whole offense changes without Brady, and yeah, it's just crazy because we thought Brady was gone, then he comes back, and then the whole thing, with Bruce Arians stepping down, it was just a whole weird situation in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
So wide receivers, this it might be where we differ. I'm not sure. To me, Justin Jefferson's one. I got Jamar Chase two. I'm still a big believer in AJ Brown, but I will say those injuries are killer. He always seems to be hurt. And last year he wasn't really able to play through him as much. Devontae Adams, I still have high, just dropped down, a couple spots. I still have Cup pretty high. One of the biggest ones I kind of moved up was Amari Cooper. I moved up to 7 just based on if Deshaun Watson can get past all these legal troubles and doesn't get suspended for a long time. I just see them having a very good connection and being pretty high. Drop Tyreek Hill down a little bit, since he's in Miami. I would like to have DK Metcalf higher, but who knows with their quarterback situation? Kind of the same with DJ Moore, and Elijah Moore. I would like to be higher, but it kind of depends on Zach Wilson's development and everything. So, anything that stands out to you on the wide receiver list?
I think it's a lot of guys on here definitely have like that wide range of outcomes. I think Hopkins all the way down at 22 definitely stands out. I can see how he's getting older for sure, but at this point, like I don't know if I can have a guy like Chris Olave who's kind of unproven coming out of the draft ahead of him. Maybe even a guy like Keenan Allen who kind of it seems like in a similar boat. I feel like DeAndre Hopkins might be ahead of him, but like I mean I understand fading him there. I just think, and I also probably wouldn't be as bold as to put AJ Brown at number 3 because I mean that's definitely like over some truly elite guys like Adams and Cooper Kupp and Diggs for sure. I mean those are a couple that I might alter a little bit. Other than that, I think I don't know. I looked at Deontay Johnson and saw maybe that was too low, and then I was trying to think who I'd move him ahead of and couldn't decide. So maybe not. But yeah, just in general, I guess I think I would move down AJ Brown a little bit, probably move up Hopkins.
Yeah, and Deontay Johnson is another one of those guys. Just I wish I knew who they're. I guess they're going to roll with Trubisky. I don't know how that's going to go. It can't be any worse than what Big Ben was, I guess, at the end of his career, arm strength wise. But a lot of those guys, and you're probably right about some of those rookies, maybe a little high. I kind of get into the rookie fever too, like we were talking earlier. I've just always liked AJ Brown, but I definitely agree with that. It'll be interesting with Devontae Adams. If he gets targeted as much as he did in Green Bay, or since they have Waller and Hunter Renfrow, if it's not as much. And then also with Cooper Kupp, I just wonder if he can keep that up, or now that they got Allen Robinson, I don't know if they're going to bring back OBJ, what they're kind of going to do. I would love to move Terry McLaurin even higher, but without a steady quarterback. Because last year, one of my hot takes was that he was going to finish as a top 5 receiver. that did not end well because, he had a hot start, but, very inconsistent with the quarterback play.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get your opinion too on the Miami receivers. So I have Tyreek Hill as a top 8 receiver, and then Waddle as still a top 15. Do you think Tua can support 2 wide receivers to be that high?
I don't. Oh man, that's hard. I feel like most likely not quite that high, but at the same time, they have upside to probably exceed their spots by a little bit, especially Tyreek Hill. Like both of them have that kind of upside, so I don't mind ranking them there. But I feel I don't have a ton of confidence in Tua. I feel like he kind of limits them. I don't know if both are going to finish as top 15 receivers. At the same time, maybe the upside's there to where you can both rank them there, but I don't think they're both going to be in that spot.
Definitely, yeah. Because I was really high on Waddle before Tyreek went there because I thought they were going to kind of use him, with Donald coming from San Francisco, using kind of like Debo, a lot of runs and a lot of short passes. But now Tyreek and Waddle, they both have great speed, so I kind of feel like it's kind of redundant a little bit on having both of them. And are they just going to use the same plays, just kind of swap them back and forth? So it'll be really interesting how that kind of works out for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so lastly, tight ends. I don't know. This might be a little bit of a hot, spicy take, but I have Mark Andrews ranked as my first tight end, mainly because I just still haven't seen Lamar develop into an accurate enough passer to support high-end wide receivers, whereas Andrews is that bigger body across the middle that I feel like he feels comfortable with. He can throw, just in his general area, and Andrews will come up with it. Yeah, and I dropped Waller down to 7 just because with Devontae Adams, I just don't know if he gets, those close to 100 targets that he's been getting with the Raiders.
That's fair. I think I would have him ahead of Goddard still probably. But that's interesting. I think Andrews, it's hard for me to say Andrews would be the tight end 1 overall, but I feel like his production over the coming years will be close to that spot. Like he's got that safe floor to where I can understand that. I have seen, as we know, Kyle Pitts is probably the consensus tight end 1 in Dynasty. Like, I don't know 100% if I would agree with that. I think he's close to there, but I'm interested in your reasoning and why he's at 4.
So the way I kind of look at Dynasty is I kind of like go into like 2 or 3 year spans and then like reevaluate. So I think that's kind of probably the end for Kelsey around then. Mm-hmm. And I see Kyle Pitts being a great player, and he played very well. Just that Atlanta offense has nothing else right now. I would assume they're going to do something with that, but I just think that caps his ceiling too until they get whatever quarterback they're going to get. I'm not as down with Mariota as other people because I think he did pretty well in Tennessee with Delaney Walker. But it's kind of a wait and see with me for Kyle Pitts. I think he's a top tier tight end, but I think the top tier has extended a little bit, whereas it was only 3 before. It might be 4 or 5 now.
Fair enough, yeah.
And let's see. Pretty high on Freiermuth too, even though the quarterback situation's in the air. I was really high on Logan Thomas before last year, but it seems like they like a couple of the other tight ends there too. So, and with his injuries last year, I kind of wonder where he kind of falls. What's your opinion on him as being a Washington fan?
I feel like he's going to be fine in terms of the other tight ends, just because I think Ricky Seals-Jones was a necessity guy just because Thomas wasn't there. If Thomas is back and healthy, he'll get a lot of targets. So I liked him a lot too heading into the last year, and I still do. But then again, how much is Carson Wentz going to throw to the tight end is the question. Is he just going to become Mo Alley Cox? Like, again, where just occasionally 2 touchdowns, but other than that, nothing. It's possible. Like, his situation was really looking up, though, last year, and if he had played all the games, might have been even better.
Definitely, and I'm glad you brought up Mo Alley Cox. I don't think he's on here, but I've been waiting for his breakout in Indy forever. Like he'll have a game where he has a touchdown. Like this is finally where Mo Alley Cox is going to break out, and I just don't know if it's ever going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, might be too late.
Yeah, so I do think there are more quality tight ends than there's been the last couple of years. I think before, it was kind of like if you didn't get the top like 5 or 6, it was kind of rough. I think now maybe like top like 14, you feel okay. What's your opinion about tight ends in general?
I'm still never going to be a middle round tight end guy. I just feel like too many of those picks are wasted, and you should either go after a late round guy or a top tier. But I feel like the top tier, I get behind the fact that the top tier has definitely expanded a little bit. So there are later rounds now than I would have the previous year, in which I'm willing to take a chance on a tight end. In general, it's either early or late, though, for me.
How would you rank the top? What would be your top 5 tight ends?
Probably for Dynasty would be, I think it might be, honestly, might be Kittle, Pitts, Andrews, Kelsey, and then it's close between like Hawkinson and Waller at number 5. That might be, they're all very close for sure at the top, especially in Dynasty when they all have varying factors like age and stuff like that. But that might be around where I'd rank it.
Do you think Kelsey has? How much longer do you think Kelsey has at this elite level? A couple, 2 years?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's going to be great for next year. He should be the tight end 1 next year in redraft. But yeah, Dynasty, maybe not, because he doesn't have that same longevity. He has so far, but he won't in the future.
Yeah, and he's another one, kind of like that aging player that's still really good, but you can't really trade him because like no one's going to give you, fair value back because he doesn't have that longevity. So it's kind of like you have to ride with him and hope he gives you as many great years as he can.
Yeah.
So yeah, so those are my rankings right now, and I'll probably post those on the on Twitter on the What the Fantasy account. So Calvin, I want to thank you again for joining me tonight, and everyone make sure to follow Calvin if you're not. And I'll put a link on our YouTube on this show of your podcast so people can check that out too. And thanks again for joining me this week.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great show.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.